Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of the Daily Red for Anfield Index. It is Monday, the 27th of January, and as we always like to remind you, the Reds are top of any table you care to mention. Top of the Champions League, top of the Premier League. There is so much to like, and we'll get into it as ever we do on the Daily Red, and it's Dave Davis, not Dave Hendrick, coming to you from I'm here in a pretty cold and miserable Edinburgh, but plenty to be happy about with the Reds. I know Dave, Trevor, and quite a few lads having, obviously in the island, the power and the storm issues as well. So fingers crossed that gets resolved for them, and hope everyone stays safe at the same time as well. Let's get into it, folks. Liverpool, what does the week look like ahead? A million things is ever going on for the Reds, and it all builds to a crescendo, doesn't it, at the end of the week, realistically. But before we get to that, there's just a small matter of the final Champions League game against PSV Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Don't know if anyone's clocked this at all, but the Champions League, there is no Tuesday, Wednesday, is there? I don't know if anyone's noticed that. All the games kick off 8 p.m. Wednesday. I don't know about you with the new format, and people are dubious around it. I kind of like that. I like the way that the table's changing minute by minute, as in a goal here and there can see who qualifies, who doesn't qualify, etc. So I do think that's quite exciting, but eyes are on Wednesday now. Now, it's a funny one, Wednesday night, isn't it? I know some people will be looking forward to it because it's Champions League, but where does it sit in the context of Liverpool's season? It kind of sits like when I was dating a girl called Jenny in the sixth form, and I'd kind of had it planned. We were building up to it. We got to, let's call it second base back in the day, and I'd made my plans, but it just sat in my wallet. Yes, a dead rubber. This is what this game is realistically. I know people say, and I get it, I'm not disagreeing with this, a point to guarantee top spot and the prestige, if you want, for a better word. But realistically, there's bigger things to think about. And I think ultimately, when we're talking about PSV away, it's who's maybe not on the plane. We'll be having a look because tomorrow, just to jump ahead for you the week, there's open training. That'll be filmed for, I think, 12:15. And then Slot and a player will do the press conference 6:45 tomorrow night. So we'll maybe get some indication. But if you're honest, I don't think you want the likes of VVD. You don't want the likes of Salah, probably not Gravenberch on the plane. You may be different, just my honest take. But yeah, I don't want anything risked in this one. And the reason I don't want anything risked in this one is because how big in the week ahead is Saturdays. And obviously we'll have coverage galore at Anfield Index for you, building up to that and straight before and after the game. But Saturday, 3:00 again. Arsenal play City, don't they, the day after? But it's all about us. And it just feels like for all the focus this week, we're not just glossing over a Champions League game, but this feels the big one, doesn't it? You may think different. You may think I'm talking absolute wham. Drop your comments in the chat panel here. Drop your comments on YouTube, ladies and gents. Give us your honest thoughts. Let's get into the stories that are dominating Monday. And there's quite a few different things coming up, but I like this one. So from the initial site, Endo is talking, people. Endo's talking about his adaptation to Liverpool, how he's found it so far. Just a few sort of comments that I like and pick out. And there's a lot to like about Endo, isn't there? He said, it took me some time to adapt, but here I play in Liverpool. So even in training, the intensity is so high. We have a lot of quality players. I think it's also a good thing for me to adapt to the Premier League as well. We train like we play in the Premier League every day. I think that made us and me stronger. Certainly made Endo stronger because the wacky talk from Enciso on the weekend. I mean, if anyone can explain to me how that's not a red card, and even the fact that VAR, look at it. And honestly, I'm just absolutely baffled a red isn't given this one. Just honestly stunned. But did you see Klopp's and Klopp, listen to me, still say it, sorry, Slot's comments afterwards where he says, that's just typical Endo. He is a warrior, and we expect that from him. He says, no, I want to carry on. Brilliant. The gum shield stays in, back to war. Endo is a fighter, isn't he? There's no two ways about it. He's got 4 kids, so he's obviously a shagger as well at the same time. But I love Endo. There's no two ways about it. Every time he's called upon, he does the business, doesn't he? He really does. No fuss, no complaint. And whether he's playing at centre-back, whether he's playing as he did when he came on in this one to give Gravenberch's legs a rest, at number 6, he's always brilliant. He is what he is a little bit. You can always focus in on Endo's limitations, but we're smart enough as Reds to know not to do that, because it's funny, isn't it, how the world loves to talk about Trent Alexander-Arnold's certain limitations and just ignore all the good things about him. We know what Endo brings. There's no two ways about it. And he was absolutely brilliant again when he came on, I thought. Although most of my good games against Ipswich, maybe you talk about the quality of an opposition. Nick saying there, try him as a striker. Do you know what? If he did, how many centre-backs would he rob or just smash into? Or how many goals would he get his head, or crosses, sorry, would he get his head on the end of? Worse suggestions there, Nick, but we'll see. Yeah, so just in case you've not read it, well worth a scan today, the Endo interview there. Now, let's get into a little bit of potential hokey-cokey, because there's suggestions, a few articles today, that Stefan Bajcetic, there's question marks over his future a little bit. I mean, he's on loan at Red Bull Salzburg. Obviously, Pep Lijnders, everyone's favourite number 2, had a part in getting him there, didn't he? And he was, if you think back in the summer, Barca were also in at the same time. But it looked like Salzburg had, got themselves a little gem. It's not quite worked out for wee Badge, has it, over there? And in fact, if you have looked at him at all or kept an eye on what he's doing, he has spent a lot of time on the bench. He really has. I mean, Harper's written a good article there to think about his future. I don't know if anyone's seen the repeated links to the stories this morning. There's strong suggestions that Las Palmas are set to get him. So that would naturally mean terminate the loan at Red Bull Salzburg, move to Las Palmas. If that is a goer, I think that's great for him. And I'm saying if, because it's a big if. If Stefan Bajcetic is going to get game time at Las Palmas, it's absolutely crucial at the moment, because he's just not even playing. And with the greatest respect to the Austrian Bundesliga, the biggest thing about him going there, we were thinking, was he's going to play in the Champions League. He's going to have those 8 games. I mean, Lijnders has been sacked. Red Bull Salzburg are not likely to qualify, or they might even be out of it. I've not really kept an eye. I know they were big time struggling. Maybe someone can update me in the comments there. And more importantly, he's not played that much. He has been, if you look, primarily relegated to the bench. So if he can get a move to Las Palmas, and it does mean guaranteed minutes, either way, and Harper writes about his long-term future there, whether it is or isn't at Liverpool, it just seems a good move. So, yeah, we'll wait to see what happens with that one. Speaking of players who are more preeminent, I mean, these two. They are, Van Dijk and Salah are in the debate for the best 2 players in the world, aren't they? There's no doubt about it. They're in the debate. And some people will talk about attackers, that type of thing. Defenders, it's harder to win. But they're in the debate. Only a fool argues different. Liverpool have 2 of these elite players, and they've less than 6 months to go on their deal. It feels dirty almost saying that. And we're almost waiting because we're near the end of the transfer window and thinking, what's going on? I mean, you can see it there. This is a comment taken from the mix zone from Virgil van Dijk, saying, I have no idea, as in how many more appearances I'll make, how many left this season. Hopefully those are guaranteed. And then I don't know what the future will bring. I mean, there's a good article there on it as well on the Anfield Index site around the uncertain future. I think it's well worded. I'm actually struggling to believe we're talking about this. I think the worrying thing is when people mention Virgil van Dijk, and you've heard all the rumours, as I have, we've talked about on the transfer show and various places about this. Virgil was the one we were kind of thinking, well, that'll be done. And all the noises are becoming like, that's the most certain as well. And you have to be honest around that. Those comments just fuel uncertainty and a bit of fear, concern, everyone will be different. And I'm hearing a lot of nonsense at the moment about, oh, people shouldn't be concerned or what. Like, everyone's entitled to an opinion. If you are worried about it, I get it. If you're thinking focus on the pitch, I get it as well. But just the minimum for me, very surprised we're not hearing more positive noises around Virgil van Dijk's contract. And when you talk about the three, it depends how you position things. If it's pure asset value, Trent is worth the most. We heard that, didn't we, earlier, sort of in the season, that Trent was the priority, and you got it because you couldn't let a £150 million player walk out the door for free. Those noises seem to have just evaporated, don't they? So then, okay, and I think we've all got our suspicions of what's going to happen with Trent. So then you come to Van Dijk, don't you? And you think, okay, in terms of the importance for the team, some will say Salah, but some, probably me, I would argue that he is the most important player in purposes of the team. There's not another Virgil van Dijk out there, the world's best centre-back. Top level centre-halves are a bit of a dearth at the moment, aren't they? Just ones that are available are like unicorns, aren't they? Or rocking horse sort of thing. It really is hard. So I just can't countenance that Liverpool would let him go. But let's be honest, people, it's the 27th of January today, and these noises are not positive around Virgil van Dijk. And that's coming from the captain himself. We'll see what develops or doesn't, shall we say, on this one. I mean, also, Salah as well, that there's a few noises and there's a few stories that there's been an offer to Mo Salah, as the tweet says there on Anfield Index, to extend his stay, but it's not met any of what he's looking for in terms of the value, the length of contract. And if you want to read more on it on Anfield Index, we are risking losing a star player. It just sort of sits in your throat a little bit, doesn't it? I don't even like reading it on the screen there. Van Dijk and Salah are within the last 6 months of their deal. People talk about ages and, what they're going to be like in a few years and all that, etc. In the here and now, how good were Mo Salah and Virgil van Dijk? I mean, Mo takes his goal brilliantly on Saturday, does it? And he absolutely murdered that fullback, didn't he? The left back, Leif Davis, I think his name was, and he went off at half time. Just elite. It's numbered to have 40 goal contributions in the Premier League already. Is absolutely sensational. Yeah, and Virgil, it just, the whole thing doesn't sit right. Jack, nice to read your comment. Jack, I hate that you put that in my mind then. As Jack, and everyone knows, shout out to him, said, worried with Neymar leaving his Saudi club, will they use his wages to go after Salah? Yeah, in world football terms, if anyone's missed it, Neymar looks set to return to Santos at his first club, doesn't he? So there's naturally a massive, not say gap, maybe that's the wrong word, but removal of wages from the Al Hilal wage bill. And that does seem to be the club that's been linked with Salah a few times. I mean, let's be honest. If the Saudis have got any whiff of getting any of these clubs getting Mo Salah, they are going to put a huge chunk of change under his nose. I just don't want us, and I mean this seriously, to give Mo Salah a decision to make. We've got elite players. We will go on about this all day, but yeah, a few stories there if you want to check them out at any time on the contract side. January links for us. There are players linked. It was almost like, if you think of that January window so far, everything, if you're Zimas to your Kamicha, it's been like that Roy Hodgson meme, as me and Trev talked about it, isn't it? Like, link to the players, Pastano kills it. That's kind of been what the January window has been like so far. However, there's a few coming up. Now, Kimmich, 29, German international, hell of a pedigree. Came out actually after the latest Bayern Munich game and said, I can't keep, funny enough, a contract situation like us, I can't keep giving you updates, he said to the German press, every few days. We'll have to see what develops. Now, there's a few stories, and there's 3 clubs that centres on it, because obviously Bayern Munich trying to do the renewal, Real Madrid and us. Now, Christian Falk, CF Bayern, if you know him on Twitter, did mention that if it's not Bayern Munich, he believes Real are more likely, but he did mention Liverpool. So those seem to be the 3 clubs in the reckoning. And as a few stories are on the Anfield Index, we have reached out to his representatives. And to be honest, as we do on the transfer show, doing digging around that, trying to find info. Yeah, Liverpool have asked. Liverpool ask about a lot of players, and especially free transfer players. Liverpool are fully aware of the situation. Now, I've seen quite a few comments on Joshua Kimmich, and I'm not going to pretend I watch the Bundesliga avidly, but it's on Sky quite a bit. So I've seen a good sort of 4 or 5 games of him this season, funnily enough, and he's in the Champions League at the same time as well. People say, perfect Trent replacement. This is the guy, and, you know, with pedigree and all this. There's a couple of things with this. 29 years old. Are we honestly believing FSG, Edwards, those are going to sanction big money for a 29-year-old? Just think about that, first of all. Second thing, I keep saying, or hearing, perfect Trent replacement, or reading perfect Trent replacement. Okay, so he's played 29 games and he's got 8 assists and a goal. 9 goal contributions there. Anyone know which lad from West Derby's got, 9 goal contributions? But also, as well as the age, look at where he's played most of his games this season. I'll be honest, I think about the 3-4 I've watched him this season, he's always in that kind of holding role, if you want to call it that, 6, however you wish to describe it. Injuries as well. So this just feels like a name, to be honest, to me, it feels like a name that gets mentioned, probably his agent's dropping in the negotiations. And yeah, I just don't see Joshua Kimmich ending up at Liverpool. I would be absolutely aghast. And looking at the chat panel as well, there's a few commenting on this as well, saying he's washed various different things that, yeah, I'm being completely honest, I would be aghast. I'm not sure it's the smartest business, but we will see if anything develops on that. So that's one of the stories that's out there. Now, this feels like, and maybe it's a manifestation one, who knows? Who actually knows? But there's a lot of people, and I don't think anyone's got a photo with him or like a chat video interview, whatever you want to call it. But there's a lot of people, and there seems to be weight to him. It looks like the guy. A lot of people have pointed out that his friend, well-known friend, was also at Anfield. But Jorrel Hato was apparently, and I'm saying apparently because I can't confirm it 100%, at Anfield on Saturday. Now, there's a couple of things that have come up on this, and like everyone has, everyone's trying to do digging, like, is this, what's this about type of thing. The only bit we've really got was he wasn't an official guest of the club, which is no surprise. And before anyone jumps on that, by the way, how many mates in our squad could he get tickets off? I mean, come on. Jorrel Hato wants to watch Liverpool. Think of the coaching staff, think of the players, all those types of things. So, yeah, no doubt it's not going to be an official visit. However, praise be to baby Jesus. We'd love this boy. We would absolutely love this boy. Now, again, I am not an avid Eredivisie watcher for anyone jumps on this type of thing, but watched a bit of this kid, looked at his stats, done a bit of analysis with Bart's on transfer market metrics. So if you're thinking, who is Jorrel Hato? Just have a quick watch or listen of this just for a minute or so. Because I think Bart's, I just clipped this up for you, just to almost give you a comparison, a description, anything like that at all.
So the first thing you got to look at when you look at his profiling is that he can play fullback and centre half, right? And that's quite a special attribute. Remember in the summer, you and me did Colwell, and one of the reasons we love Colwell was he's almost a unicorn. He can play left back and he can play centre half, and equally really impressively in both positions. So if you can get a kid that does that, it gives you a lot of flexibility in that back line. In Cape, is it the guy from Leverkusen? He can play left wing back and he can play centre half. So when he played against us in the Champions League, he was a bit more deeper, but because he can play there. When he plays in the league, he plays further up the pitch. So there's lots of things. And if you listen to Transfer Committee Pod, they actually recommended signing him because he has that flexibility. To answer John's previous question, that's the profile of player that you could potentially go and get, because it allows you that in-game flex to say, look, mate, for this bit playing here because we're changing our right back, or vice versa.
Yeah, so it's just a bit of like a comparison, because I know people will be thinking, what's he like? If you haven't seen him, haven't heard of him. But as Bart's described him well, almost if you think like Colwell can play left back, centre back as well. If you think like an Nkape type, that flexibility, and as Bart sort of phrased it there, the ability to change in-game state. What's also weird is I'm looking on the video, it looks like I was wearing the exact same outfit that day. If I was a girl, I'd be bothered, but maybe I'm now in a vortex, who knows? But so much to like about this kid. And before as well, anyone jumps in to say you've just read an FB ref profile, nonsense. Absolute nonsense. I know we did like a few games, and it's funny, as Dean's put there, the Holland debut against Gnabry, that was one of the games we looked at. And Bart's run a full profile actually against him for the Rangers game in the Europa League. So there is so much to like about this kid. A million different things to like about him. And by the way, he will cost millions. But if people talk about opportunistic signings, this is one, but with an adjustment in expectations. Let me just explain what I mean on this. Whatever you think about this kid ain't coming in to start. This kid, like 18 years old, developing, absolute huge ceiling, no two ways about it. But this kid isn't coming in to start. In fact, if there is anything in this, and we obviously praise be to baby Jesus, we wait with bated breath for updates, but if there is anything in it, do you remember the Cater deal originally? And don't jump on the injury bit, just listen to what I'm saying. The Cater deal where we paid a small premium, kept him at Leipzig for the season, and then took him. This could be the one. And also, there you go. So just put it in the chat panel. Sort of, let me do the narrating here, but very true. Few Ajax fans saying they do need Ajax's financial situation. I mean, we can be vultures in that regard. Nothing wrong with that as well. We do what's needed. It's right for us. So I think almost like a Cater style, like maybe if you pay a premium or you do it now and you let Ajax keep him actually. And I know some people will say, no, get him over, get him involved in the squad. Could understand that at the same time. Liverpool will know far better than me, but I wouldn't be against him staying at Ajax, i.e., where he can play week in, week out, especially at that age, and let him develop. So that's one of the things at the same time. He's not ready for it now. That's one thing I would really stress. And the reason this transfer is even sexier in a way, let's stop being the third link in the train, people. Let's stop being that third position where, think of a Baleba where Lille, we thought and we didn't. Then he goes to Brighton. And now if we want him, it's going to cost a king's ransom, innit? How about we buy these players? And honestly, like, Hato is one for me. And I'm obviously kind of in love with a player that way as much as he can be. I'm not really. But in terms of a signing I would like, absolutely there for me. This would be smart business, opportunistic, if you want to call it that. I also believe that if you don't get him now, this isn't a Baleba. This kid is at another club tearing it up in a few years. This isn't one where he, I don't think he's the type that will go to a Brighton. I'm not saying, no one predicts the future, Mystic Meg style, but I think he's one bigger clubs will make the move for. And then even if he is at a Brighton, say that does happen, great. Now we're paying like 70 million, or we're quoted, 70 million for him in a few years. This is one I think could be really smart business. Now, as a few people have pointed out in the chat panel as well, no journo shot it down yet, as in none of the patch journos, anything like that, have shot it down. I will be asking David Lynch in just over an hour about it to see his take on it. So we'll see if anything breaks or doesn't before then. But yeah, I'll be putting it to him if he's heard anything. But you just think of that Dutch contingent as well, don't you? Like Grav, Gakpo, VVD, Slot, Heiting. And there's so many Ajax or Hato connections. It's brilliant. And you know, the final sort of cherry on the cake as well, Slot can switch out players without having to worry about names too much, because who's playing centre-back? It might be Jorrel, it might be Jorrel. Could alternate, can't they? One plays left side, one plays right side in the future. Absolutely perfect. Probably sensing that maybe I'm into this too much, but we have been absolutely starved of transfer news, haven't we, in January? Every other bloody club is signing someone, so we will see what happens and what comes up. But yeah, those are the latest two names. Feel free to have a look, read further on them. Now, this one I want to shout out because Jack's done this as well. There's a brilliant video analysis pod that the guys have started to do. Just a short one. It's on YouTube. Let me just play a little clip.
Liverpool out of possession. This was arguably one of Liverpool's best defensive performances of the season. Their pressing in the build-up, tracking of runners, and the counter-pressing after losing possession, all executed at an elite level. Ipswich have shown their ability to hurt teams on the break, but Liverpool nullified this threat, restricting them just to one shot on target in the first half and 3 overall. Liverpool pressed in a 4-3-3/4-2-4 formation. Szoboszlai operated slightly deeper than Diaz and Salah, cutting off Ipswich's pivots. This forced the ball wide to the fullbacks, where Gravenberch would aggressively press, while Konaté's physicality helped win.
Loved it. Honestly, I've watched it a couple of times already. So it is on YouTube, and we'll talk about the content there as well. But just a small prod from Jack, and I can't remember who else it is. My apologies. But well worth a little sort of watch. I think it just, when you have your thoughts after the game, you think, did I see that? Did I not see that? The eye test, as I call it. Good just to piece it together. So I would recommend having a look at that. And there's a few comments flying in as well. Russell's there put, Lille have approached Feyenoord for, and I'm probably going to butcher this name, we'll call him Anis Hadj Musa. Yeah, there's a player that's been linked with Liverpool as well. Maybe looks like there's nothing in that one at all either. So what else is on the channel? This is insane. I mean, I'm not being funny. I don't know what Eddie and Greg and Gags do all day, but they actually put out more content than Pornhub most times, don't they? I mean, look at all this in the last day or so. Just in the last 24 hours, look at what you got. You got the Gags Tandem show. You got the Raw Boys doing the reaction. You've got that video analysis pod that I talked about, well worth a watch. You've got me and Grizz talking Hato and Ipswich yesterday at the same time. And even just the Raw Boys talking about the midfield, which I'll be getting into with David Lynch as well. So honestly, there is 1,000,001 different things. Maybe not quite got the variety of Pornhub, you could argue, but plenty of content there for you, ladies and gents, to get stuck into. What else is coming up? Still plenty today. So say just over an hour's time, I'll be speaking to David Lynch on Media Matters. I also know the Under Pressure boys, so shout out to the selected and affectionate, as I say this, for anyone jumps on it, and I've already called him Barts this morning, the affection towards the nerds, and I know everyone will be looking forward, like I will be, to listening to that at the same time. Tomorrow is the game, isn't it? Build up, I should say, sorry. So open training. You've got quarter past 12. Then 7:15 is the interview. So it'll be interesting to see what news we get. Maybe Curtis Jones back. Would you travel? Would you put him in the travelling squad? I don't know if he is available. We'll have to see on that. Also, then you've got Wednesday, the games. You've got Raw. There's build up. There is content out the wazoo for you. So we have got you covered in all places. And even for the games, there'll be Jack's watch along. There'll be the gag show afterwards. 1,000,001 different things dependent on your selection. But there we are, ladies and gents. Monday, the 27th of January. We'll see what develops in terms of team news. We'll see what develops in terms of transfer talk. We'll see what develops, hopefully, praise be to baby Jesus, in terms of contract talks at the same time as well. Maybe we shouldn't hold our breath. But there we are. It's Monday, the 27th of January. That was another Daily Red for Anfield Index.